Our nation is currently in great mourning, dear Zimbabweans, after the tragedy that befell our country on the 11th of August 2026 in Kariba, after the Mbuyane and a vessel drowned in the waters of Kariba. The waters of Nyami Nyami consumed many of our people. It is with the heavy heart that I address you today when our nation is faced with the tragedy of that magnitude that has befell our nation. The state is in the state of devastating mourning, for no one ever expected that such a tragedy will befell our nation. The ferry disaster has never been witnessed in memory history in our country. Since Kariba Dam was built during the 1950s by the Italians through the Rhodesian government, such a tragedy has never happened in our waters of the Zambezi. The other tragedy that befell our nation in memory history that is comparable to what happened on the 11th of August was the 1991 3rd of August Regina Cheli bus disaster that happened in Nyanga. Today, we are hearing that 84 bodies have now been recovered from the Mbuyane and a vessel disaster in Kariba. Still, there are other outstanding bodies that have not been recovered. And it is beyond the explanation of simple human nature to understand why our nation has been drowned in such kind of mourning. The Regina Cheli bus disaster that happened in Nyanga on the 3rd of August 1991 had 89 casualties of young students and their teachers who perished on that incident. These are the two most difficult disasters that happened in our country that brought sorrows and tears on our cheeks. But the Mbuyane and vessel disaster is completely different from the Regina Cheli bus disaster, on the basis that the vessel that was transporting people from the shores of Kariba Dam on the areas bordering Binga, around Chalala and surrounding areas, is a vessel owned by the agents of the state. It is a vessel that has been run by the state. and such a tragedy caused by human error, not only by human error, but by a negligent regime that has no respect for the safety and lives of our people. The Mbuyane vessel was a 1985 model. 41 years later, it was still being forced in the waters of Kariba. It had its own capacity of 90 passengers to be ferried from one end to the other. This is the only mode of transport that is available to the people of Binga and also from the people from Kariba rural who would need to travel to Kariba urban. The only land route you can use if you are not using these vessels is a road which you should take from Kariba and drive 166 kilometers up to Karoi, where you will turn on the Siakoba Road to Mola and Bumi Hills for you to be able to connect with that community. From Kariba coming inland and then turning back in Karoi to reach that place takes you almost 2 solid days for you to be able to complete that journey. The road that ramps off from Karoi to Siakobu, Mola and Bumi Hills is a death trap. You will not be able to travel more than 30 kilometers per hour on the state and how bad that road is. If you are afraid to use that road, if you are to go to Binga and the inner areas in Binga, you either have to go and drive from Kariba, Karoi, Chinoi, then Chegutu. Between Chegutu and Kadoma, there is a road that ramps off going towards Sanyat, and then from there, you take that road until you reach Sengwe. And that road would need you to take 3 days for you to be able to reach to your destination. 46 years later, after our independence in Zimbabwe, our people are still suffering for them to be able to travel from one end to another. Others who are afraid of these death traps called roads in our nation will take a long route to go as far as Bulawayo and then turn into Victoria Falls Road and then try to connect Binga along that road. But still the road that will ramp off from Victoria Falls into the inland of Binga cannot be able to be used by motor vehicles. This is the state of our nation 46 years later after our independence, where the ZANU-PF regime has never had any love for them to construct the road infrastructure to link the communities of our nation. Not only that, there is clear demonstration of the impunity of the regime. Robert Mugabe, despite all his misgivings and all his sins and evilness that he committed against the people of our nation, after the Regina Shelley bus disaster in 1991, he declared 2 days of national mourning to heal the mourning people of our country after such an unimaginable loss of the young children of Regina Shelley Mission. The regime of today of Emerson Mnangagwa doesn't show any care. After the incident and the disaster in Kariba, what you have seen is for them to go to churches, for them to get more blessings, to continue misruling our nation. When the nation is on mourning, no visit by the head of state or even his deputy. The deputy presidents of our nation did not visit the mourning people who have lost their loved ones in Kariba. No empathy, nothing. No declaration of the National Day of Mourning for us to be able to mourn our relatives who lost the dearest life in Kariba. What they were only able to do was for them to dispatch a delegation of the mentally unstable Garwe and Barbara Rosie to go to Kariba on a private jet to participate in a few minutes on a mass memorial service. After that, they disappeared. They only forced those who had their deceased ones to be immediately buried. And said, we don't have the places for us to keep them. Please take your dead ones and go and bury in your villages. Without the consideration of how many people have suffered per family. How many other relatives from extended relatives have passed on during that disaster. People were simply forced to ferry their deceased ones for burial. This regime abandoned its duty of care. A duty of care which any responsible government must understand that it must carry out the concerns of its citizens. This vessel, as we all know, was owned by the agents of this regime through the Rural Infrastructure Development Agency, RIDA. RIDA is what you used to know and understand in the past as the Rural Development Fund, DDF. And as this vessel was being run by the agents of the regime, we hold the regime responsible for the mass loss of life that was occasioned by the negligence of those who have been running that vessel. At the present moment, in terms of those survivors and those who have been retrieved from the dam, the numbers are now almost around 160 something. On a vessel whose capacity was 90. And the regime does not show any form of remorse. They don't care. They are running the nation as if everything is normal. And you would wonder, what crime did the people of Binga and Matabeleland North have committed to have a regime that is so insensitive about the difficulties that reaches them on a daily basis? So what we must know today, ladies and gentlemen, as the nation is mourning, we are declaring our own days of mourning for the tragic loss we had on our relatives who perished in the Kariba Dam, we are under vessel disaster. We are declaring the day of Wednesday and Thursday this week as the days of national mourning. Let our hearts be at half-mast, for we are concerned and for we are in pain for the great loss that has happened in our country. The $100 that has been left and compensated to those who have lost their relatives. This is where human rights lawyers come on board. We are coordinating the human rights lawyers to make sure that adequate compensation is being paid to those who have lost their lives through the negligence of this regime. Reader should pay adequate compensation for the negligent loss of life that took place in Kariba. We are busy mobilizing human rights lawyers who are prepared to take these cases pro amico in public interest to defend these defenseless masses of our people. We will never allow our people to be insulted by being given $100, which will not be even able to buy the food of those people who will come and commiserate with these families for a day. But this is what this regime has done. This regime has done this on the backdrop of them buying vehicles and trying to buy loyalty from several people. Where you hear every day Gananda buying vehicles for those people whom they want to influence to support this evil regime. Millions and millions of dollars have been used to buy people's loyalty, forgetting just a mere simple duty of providing a proper vessel for the transportation of our people in Kariba. You'd wonder why Binga and the other areas of Matabeleland North remains underdeveloped up to today, where in their communities they don't have even roads to link themselves. And they are being ferried by a 41-year-old vessel. This regime has always had a hard heart against the people of Binga and the people of Matabeleland North. After even carrying a genocide during the period of Gukra, it still sounds inadequate to them. They are still inflicting more pain and fear into the hearts of our relatives in Matabeleland North. It is with this heavy heart, dear Zimbabweans, that I have wished to address you, that we, the masses of our people, must declare our own days of mourning from Wednesday and make sure that our people mourn those who lost their lives in Kariba. With these words, I thank you today. May the Almighty God bless all of you. Thank you.